Hey, Paul, you got a light?
Hey, yeah, sure, Brian. Here you go. There you go. Up next, we're going to show you how to repair a gas oven that won't light. So, Brian, you had a problem with your oven recently where it just simply wouldn't light.
That's right. We didn't know what was going on. I Googled it. I found out it was the hot surface igniter, and it's very easy to replace.
So you have to have this igniter working or else the gas valve won't even open. You won't have the oven fill up with gas.
Exactly.
And it's obviously won't light. And this requires an electrical connection, but you're going to show us how you replace
Right.
this.
This is the most common thing that would cause that problem. There's other types of igniters, but this is the one you'll run into most often.
Okay, let's check it out.
So I'm going to swap out the burner igniter. It's down underneath the bottom panel here in the oven next to the burner. And hopefully this will solve the problem of the oven not turning on. So I'm just going to pull the bottom cover off, expose the burner assembly and the part I need to swap out. I may need to pull the oven out away from the wall to get to the connector behind it if it's not down underneath here. And here's the part that I'm going to need to swap out. Also, the first time getting these screws out can be a booger. Okay, so I've pulled out the screws, and as we can see, and I've got two more holding the burner igniter onto the bracket, but as we can see in here, I'm going to need to pull the oven out to get to the connector on the back of the oven. Okay, so I'm going to have to take this panel off to get to the connector. So I'll pull this apart, I'll go around the other side and pull it out, and then take it off the rest of the way. So I got the old one off, I'm going to put the new one in, put everything back the way it came out. So I'm just going to put this back in here, run that wire back through where it was, and connect everything back up. So the hardest part about this project was finding the model number of this stove. So you can find those inside the door, and other obvious places or less obvious places, like on these little placards that you can tilt up that are back behind the stove. So how about that?
So Brian, that didn't seem too bad. It's not an expensive repair. How much does this part cost?
Well, that's an interesting question, Paul. I got the original equipment manufacturer from Whirlpool, and it cost about 45 bucks. There's also generic versions of this. The generic versions, you don't know, like they're not going to have the exact connectors, so you're going to have wire nuts and stuff like that. So if you want plug and play, get the exact part for your model. But there are some generic ones if you want to save a couple of bucks.
All right, so you don't want to chintz on this part. It's kind of an important part. You want it to work. You want that oven to turn on.
Right. And on our website, if right below the post that's hosting the video, you can go in there and put your model number of your stove, and it'll come up with a list of parts, and you can pick your igniter right off of that.
Right. So if you're watching this on some video service, go to our website, handyguyspodcast.com, and you can find that little entry for you can.
You know what the hardest? There was two things that were hard about this project, Paul. The hard part one was finding the model number of my stove, and you'll see in the little video where I found it. And then the other part was just getting the screws out to get access to this.
But once you did,
once I did, it was just plug and play.
All right, thanks for sharing that with us,
All
Brian.
right.
That's all for this week for the Handy Guys Podcast.
Thanks.